Welcome to the Rustic Garden. This is the second video in a series that I'm doing on actually growing greens throughout the entire winter. And what I did is I downsized to this sort of greenhouse. It's more like a cold frame. It's 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, 3 feet high. And my thought was I'll be better able to manage the heat and the cold season here, well, the really cold weather, which is late December, January, and February, and keep this greenhouse going. I wanted to show you today how I'm planting it and what I'm doing to really get the greens in there, including radishes, onions, cilantro, all kinds of different things. I start with different size containers. I showed you how to make the potting mix in the first video. And in the back, right in there, are Tom Thumb peas. They'll grow about 12 inches tall, so I'll get full peas in the Tom Thumb, but I won't need all that space. So the 3-foot high ceiling works perfectly well with 12-inch tall peas. In here I have bunching onions. These are all planted around October 5th, and they're starting to come up. In the back I have cilantro, which I enjoy in salads, and I will also use to make, salsa. Unfortunately, I'll be using tomatoes from the grocery store unless my greenhouse that's over the raised bed turns out and my tomatoes ripen. But anyway, cilantro is a cool weather plant too. It can actually take a little bit of frost. It even turns kind of fall colors if it's left outside, kind of a red purpley color. But soon as this warmth comes in the spring, that cilantro will sprout up, so it doesn't die off, believe it or not, in the frost. Back in there I have more peas, and I'm going to grow those not for pea pods, but actually to cut the tendrils off and put them right into my salad, or the leaves. In here is a chicory or endive, same thing. This is a Catalona emerald endive that I grew last year, and well, I grew it in the spring. This is the original plant right in there. I'm trying to keep my shadow out. That is a perennial. So this chicory, or this endive, will come back year after year if you plant it in your garden, at least in Maryland Zone 7. So this is starting to come back. I'm going to harvest these greens. It also seeded, and it seeded itself in the original box that it was in, and that's right in there. And I was just using a spoon and taking out the seedlings, and I put them all along there. So I'm going to have some great greens. They're kind of like dandelions, sort of on steroids. They have a great sweeter flavor in the cool weather, and of course in the summer, like a lot of different greens, they get bitter. Back there are French breakfast radishes, and I put them about 2 inches apart each way. They will grow to a shape sort of like your thumb, like that. So they don't need as much space as some of the round ones, which I recommend you do, about 4 inches. But I put 2 seeds in each hole, and I'm going to thin those out today. I'll also actually cut the video in a second, and I'm going to show you how to take this red lettuce. I'm going to cut that down and just leave the roots in the ground, and then transplant that into one of these boxes, because it'll be like cut and come again lettuces, where I think I'll probably stick them in a container, where the root system will stay alive, and it's going to generate new leaf growth. So I'm going to save a little bit of time by putting a sort of, not really a rootstock, but a root system that's established into the containers. And then finally, I bought my supply of different greens for next spring and for now, and I started them right here. And I did mustard greens, different endives, chicory, arugula, romaine lettuces, red lettuces, green lettuces, even turnip greens. But these will all be transplanted in some capacity into these containers. I'm going to let them grow a little bit longer on here and get some size, and yeah, I will thin them out. I'm going to get some stuff set up. One point to stress is that if you're going to use a cold frame or a greenhouse, you don't have to start everything from seed. You can move some of your plants that are out in the garden into the protection of the cold frame or the mini greenhouse. I just cut the leaves off of the red lettuce that was growing in the container I just showed you, and I left the stems in there. And right in the container you can see the stems right there, and all I did was used a spoon, dug out the root ball, dug out the stem, and put it right into this container. And this will go into the cold frame, and it will start producing leaves, and very quickly actually, and I'll be able to harvest this again and again until the plant dies out or the cold gets to it. So that is one way to get some greens into your cold frame if you're not starting them from seed. Another way to do it is, I have onions that I grew, lots of them if you've watched my other videos, and these are onions that were sitting on my picnic table that started to sprout. I like using the onion greens, so all you have to do is get the bulbs that are left and just drop them in just like that. And these will take off, and you'll be able to cut the greens off and put them into your salads, even into your omelets, or use them however you wish. Another way are, these are greens, these are actually not greens, these are onions that I was growing in my greenhouse last November, December, believe it or not, the one that got knocked down. These are some that survived, and I just let them sit in this container the entire spring, summer, now fall, and fed them every once in a while. So these need to get fed. But I cleaned them up on this side. I'll clean these up, I'll feed them, and they're going to go right into that space down there. And again, I will get more onion greens, and if I decide to pick them, I can pick them and have little onions for my salads. This is another endive. This is the one I showed you a few minutes ago. This is where they grew in the greenhouse again from last year, and they survived. And in fact, this whole stalk is the flowering stalk, and they have actually beautiful purple blue flowers that I didn't know about. One, two, it reseeds pretty easily, so these are going to go into my flower bed, and I hope to get a mass of blue flowers next year that will keep coming back. So this plant, not only am I going to eat it, I'm going to use it for the perennial flowers. One more thing, let me just show you, a mistake. When I did the radishes about 2 weeks ago, I left the seed packet out, and you can see how easily you can waste a bunch of seeds. Let's see. I left them out in the rain, they all sprouted and pretty much ruined them. So this is one way to get the greens started in your greenhouse. The next video will show some more plantings, and I actually have a 5-gallon bucket right here that I use for my neem oil. This top comes off. This is going to be filled with water, and I'm going to be using a fish heater to help keep warmth in this greenhouse, and I'll talk about that next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please check out my blog at www.therustedgarden.blogspot.com, and also check out my YouTube videos. Thanks.